Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to my amazing YouTube channel. My name is Lorna and I'm a cloud engineer. And in our video today, we are going to look at the basics of CloudFormation. So this is a video for someone who's getting started with CloudFormation or someone who just want to review or rather renew their basic skills in CloudFormation. So before you get into the video, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and also Merry Christmas in advance. So for this video today, I've just mentioned that we are looking at the basics of CloudFormation. So for someone who wants to get started with CloudFormation, this is the video for you. Make sure you watch to the end and also leave a like on the video and leave a comment if you feel like I missed something that is beneficial to all of us. Just make sure you mention in the comment section, and also please consider subscribing to this channel so that the channel can grow. Now, CloudFormation is a tool provided by AWS to enable automation of deployment of resources within AWS. So CloudFormation fall into a category of tools referred to as infrastructure as code tools. Some other examples include Terraform and Ansible. So you could be familiar with those ones, or you could be using those ones at the moment. And CloudFormation is definitely one of those tools. It's basically for automating deployment of resources in the cloud environment. So CloudFormation is specific to AWS. It's provided by AWS, and it definitely supports so many tools. So many resources within AWS. There could be some of the resources which are not currently supported by CloudFormation. But if you look at the roadmap for CloudFormation, AWS is working day by day to at least ensure that most of the resources are supported by CloudFormation. So that's just the definition, and yeah, the basic definition of CloudFormation. So how it works is that it uses templates which are written either in YAML or JSON format, and it specifies the resources and anything you need to add into that template for you to be able to create that resource that you're creating within the AWS cloud. For example, if you're creating an EC2 instance, you should be aware of what does it take for an EC2 instance to be created within AWS. So for example, you would need VPC, you would need a subnet, you would need probably a security group if you want to like limit what traffic or what gets into that EC2 instance. You probably will need something like a key pair if you want to be able to SSH into that EC2 instance, and so many other things. So before you get started with creating your own templates, you need to understand what do I need, or what does it take to have that resource up and running within AWS. So once you're able to understand what it takes to have that resource running, you'll be able to put all that into your templates, either in a YAML file or in a JSON file. So at the very least, what you require for CloudFormation, especially for a person getting started, you need template format, version, and resources at the very least. So as you can see on my screen over here, we have AWS template format version. I have description, I have parameters, I have mappings, I have resources, I have outputs. So these are important, but as I said, at the very least, especially when you're getting started, you just need the version and the resources. Some of these other things you can learn going forward, and you'll be able to understand how can you use parameters and mappings to make your work even more easier when you're passing resources to your template. So I'll give you an example of a template, which I just have the basic things that are needed, which is the version and the resources. And then I'll give you an example of another template that I'm covering parameters, mappings, and outputs. So if you can see on my screen over here, I have this other CloudFormation 2.yaml and CloudFormation 3.yaml templates. So let's look at this first one here. So for this one, I have the list components that are required, which is the version and the resources. Version is constant. This is the version, and you can Google online and see the version that is required for you to use. It's just as it is on my script. And then I just added a description. I don't think this is something hard to add. It's just a description. It explains what your template is going to do. And I think it's important because if someone else wants to use your template, they'll at least having the first glance at it, they'll be able to understand what is this template going to do. And then the resources. The resources are now the things that you want to launch in your AWS account. So for my case, I'm creating an EC2 instance within a VPC, and these are the very basic things that you would want to add. So for example, I said, if you don't have a VPC already, you can create one. Otherwise, you can pass a VPC ID for an already existing VPC. But for our demo here, I just want to create a VPC. I want to create a subnet. I want to create an internet gateway, and I want to create a security group for my EC2 instance. So I'm going to show you all that, and also a key pair. I'm going to pass a key pair for my EC2 instance so that I'll be able to access it through SSH. And at the same time, I'm just going to run, to install a web server that using user data, just so that I can also show you how to pass user data using CloudFormation. So the first thing is creation of a VPC. So this is just a name that I'm going to give that resource. So you declare resources like this. So resources is anything that you're going to create within your AWS console. So the first resource in my template is a VPC. I just called it my VPC. This is the name of my resource. What is important is the type, because this is what CloudFormation understands. So type is AWS EC2 VPC. All right. So this is very, very important because this is how CloudFormation understands the resource that you're going to create. So this is just the name of my resource, not so much understood by CloudFormation. This is what CloudFormation understands. So you need to understand the format of passing the type of the resource that you're going to create. So mostly it's just AWS EC2 if it's EC2, and the specific resource, which is now the VPC. So VPC, and then the properties. What do I want for my VPC? So you understand, when you create a VPC, you need a CIDR block, and also there's other things that you'd want to enable within your VPC. For example, DNS and hostname. So I passed my CIDR block as this network over here, and then I enabled DNS support and also hostname to be true. So you can set it as false if you don't want, and you can change the CIDR block depending on how you want your VPC to be like. So my first resource is done for VPC. I also want to create a subnet within this VPC. So remember, when I create like this, it doesn't by default add a subnet, and unless you also provide the subnet. So I'm just going to create one subnet. And this is the format for the type. So this is just the name of the resource. I'm calling it my subnet. This is the type, AWS twice, EC2 twice, and the subnet. And then the properties of the subnet. So the subnets also require a VPC. So where is that subnet going to be? Which VPC? So I'm going to reference the VPC which I already created up here. So I'm using what you call ref to reference the VPC, which is my VPC. And then I'm also going to give a CIDR block for my subnet. So the CIDR block has to be within this CIDR block that you created for the VPC. And then the availability zone, I'm also going to hard code the availability zone. I'm going to show you how to dynamically choose an availability zone that is available in your region. And then I'm also going to allow public IP for in that subnet. Yeah. So my second resource is done, which is the subnet. I also need to create an internet gateway because I need the VPC to have an internet gateway. So this is how I'm going to create my internet gateway. So this is the type, it's AWS EC2 internet gateway. This is the only thing that you need to understand how to declare resources in your CloudFormation. And then I also need to attach. So remember, creation of an internet gateway doesn't by default get attached to the VPC that you've created. So you need to ensure that your internet gateway is actually attached to your VPC. So this is how I'm going to do that. So the properties, you need to declare the VPC ID, which I'm also referencing from the initially created VPC. And then I also reference the gateway ID, which I also created over here. And then I need to create a security group. So remember, I said I need to be able to SSH into my EC2 instance. So I'm going to allow port 2022. For my case, it's allowed from anywhere, which is really not recommended, especially if you're working on a production environment. So you need to limit this the IP addresses where you can be able to SSH to your EC2 instance. But for our demo, I'm just going to be very simple with this and just allow from anywhere, and also allow port 80 just for the web server that I'm running over here. And then now my EC2 instance. So this is the name of my resource. It's my EC2 instance. Type, this is the type. And then properties, I need an instance type, which in this case I've just hard-coded at T2 micro. I need an image ID that's going to be used to launch my EC2 instance, which I've also hard-coded over here. I also need a key pair for me to be able to SSH into my EC2 instance, which is also hard-coded over here. And then the security group ID, I'm going to reference the security group that was created up here. So you reference like this. It's an exclamation, then ref, and then the name of your resource that you created over here. It has to match. And then the subnet ID, I'm also going to reference the subnet that I created up here. Yeah, the same way. And then I added some tags to my EC2 instance. And then I need to pass some user data because I want to install a web server. And this is how you pass the user data. So you use sort of this there shouldn't be a space over here. Sorry about that. It should be like this. Yeah, so this is how I'm passing my user data, so that once my EC2 instance is launched, it will be able to install that web service. So let me know if this is if you have any question with this template. You can leave it in the comment section and I'll be able to respond to you. So this is as basic as it can get, just having the version and the resources. Most of the resources here are hard-coded, as you can see, and it's very, very basic, as I've mentioned. Sometimes you may want to dynamically pass the resources, which is now comes at an advanced level, but you also need to learn that, because it's not all the time that you will be having the same parameters that you pass here. The reason why you're using CloudFormation is because you can at least reuse the code. It's one of the benefits of using infrastructure as code tools, is to enable you to also be able to use the code. So instead of always coming here and editing this, some of these parameters, for example, let me see, for example, what now? Like the instance type, maybe you want to use the same code to create another EC2 instance of a different instance type. You can always come here and edit, but you can also pass the instance type dynamically using parameters. Now, we'll come back to here and talk about parameters. So parameters will allow you to pass some of the things that you can dynamically pass to your template. So you can use parameters for that. And then mappings is really important when you want to use resources that are available in different regions. A good example is when you want to probably, let's say, an AMI ID. You're creating an EC2 instance and you want to use an AMI ID that's available in a different region. Remember, AMI IDs can be region specific, and so you can use mapping to pass all the AMI IDs in different regions. You can even pass up to like 5 regions, and then you reference the AMI ID in your template using mappings for the region that you want to create your instance, EC2 instance is in. Sorry. And so with that, I'm going to show you this other template that I've used. I've made use of parameters, I've made use of mappings, and I've also made use of outputs. So looking at this, the version remains the same as I mentioned before. And then I add a description, which is saying EC2 instance to the region specific AMI ID using mappings. And then I declared my parameters over here. This is how to declare your parameters. So these are parameters that you'll reference in the part of the EC2 instance, or whichever place that you want to reference the parameters. And the good thing with this one is that you can add more. For example, here I'm adding a parameter for instance type here. So in this other template here, instance type is hard coded to T2 micro, right? But I can pass parameters for instance type and provide more options that I can select when I'm creating my EC2 instance. So the default will be kept as T2 micro, but some other allowed values are these ones. So you will realize that when you're creating your stack, you will have the option of selecting these other instance types. It won't just restrict you to this. It will give this one as the default, but you have the option of selecting this other one. So it's really important that you know how to use the parameters to, do some changes like that instead of editing your code every time, because you probably had coded some of these values. And then the key name, I'm also going to pass an existing key name. For this one, I had coded the key pair here, but for this one, I declared a key name, and it's an existing one in the cluster already. And then this is the type that CloudFormation accepts for a key pair. So you'll realize that when you're creating the template, or rather when you're creating the stack, it will prompt you to give the name of the key pair that already exists in your account. And then coming to mappings, as I explained before, giving an example of AMIs, AMIs can be region specific. So you need to at least declare some of the regions that you'll be using for in your account. So for example, in this one, I have an AMI from US East 1, I have an AMI from US West, and an AMI from Ireland, and another from Mumbai. So when I'm creating, when I'm running, rather creating my stack using this template, if my stack is created in US East, for example, you'll realize that it will be picking this AMI ID. So you don't have to like have it hard coded over here, because if you want to use this template in another region, you'll probably face an error of AMI is not available in that region. So it's important that you understand how to use mappings to map resources that are region specific, so that you can at least use the same template in different regions. So for my case, I'll actually be creating this stack in North Virginia, and you'll realize that it will be by default picking this AMI for my EC2 instance. And then I create the resources. I create my VPC over here, just as the same way I had in my previous template. And then I create a subnet. So for my subnet, I'm not going to give a specific subnet. I'm just going to select the first subnet in that region. All right. So for this one, you can see that I had given the subnet as where was it? Yeah, US East 1A, but in this one, it's just going to pick the first subnet in that region. So you use select and then get AZs. So I've added some explanation over here. So this one, get AZs, will return a list of all available availability zones in that current region, and then select 0, select the first AZ from the list of the available availability zones. So if you want the first one or the second one, you can always have 1 or 2 over here. Or you can have 1, 2, and 3 if you want to select all availability. So for example, if you're creating something like an EKS cluster is recommended that it spans across different availability, especially at least 2 subnets. So you can always like have 0, 1 and 0, 1, 2, depending on how many subnets you want to select for that. So this one will dynamically select the subnets for you. And then of course, the same way, my internet gateway, attaching to the VPC the same way. And then I think the rest of the things will be the same. So what I really wanted to show from this one is how to use the parameters and how to reference the parameters, and also how to use the mappings. So I'm going to go down to EC2 instance so that you can see how I reference those parameters. So here, instance type, so you just do a reference, just the same way you're referencing other things, just reference instance type. All right, so this is the instance type that we declared in the parameters. So as I said before, you will realize that when you're creating your stack, it will give you T2 micro as the instance type, but you still have an option to select these other allowed values. And then another thing is image ID. So for mappings, this is how mapping is referenced. Please take note of this. So you say find in map, because it does a mapping. Find in map. So region to AMI, and then you reference AWS region, and then AMI ID. So that's this is the way I wrote my mappings. It's called region to AMI. And then you can see the name I'm giving to, I mean, not the name really, but the variable I'm using for the AMI ID is just AMI ID. So take note of the mapping's name, which is region to AMI, and the variable that you're using for the AMI ID. Now, when you come back to the EC2 instance, you'll realize for the AMI ID, you're finding in the map which map is region to AMI map, because this is the name of my map. And then you reference the way that CloudFormation understands region, and then the AMI ID is not the variable for the AMI. So in my case, the AMI that's going to be selected is this one, because I'll be running this stack in US East region. All right. So basically that is it. And then I have the outputs. If you want the outputs as well, this is the outputs. So I'm going to output the public IP for the instance. So get attribute. So you use what you call get attribute, and then my EC2 instance, just the same way that you had declared the EC2 instance resource dot public IP, or dot anything that you want to output. If you want to output maybe like the availability zone, you just say dot availability zone. Now this get attribute, these find in map, these are called intrinsic functions, and I think I had mentioned over here. They are called intrinsic functions, and you use them to, of course, like ref is for referencing to a resource. Get attribute is just like getting the output, getting a value of a resource from the output of the stack. So once the stack is created, of course, that resource will have different attributes. So you get attribute from the output of the stack, and then you pass it to the output of your template if you want to have it in the output of your template. Finding map, of course, is the one that is used to find a specific parameter from a map. So they are called intrinsic functions. Sorry about that. Now, I think that is basically it with the introduction to CloudFormation. As I said, at the very least, when you're getting started, just make sure you have the format version and you have the resources. And then as you go ahead to learn more, you will learn how to add mappings, parameters, and output, which is really not hard. I think what can be a bit challenging is mapping. Parameters is not hard, but let me know if you need this sample of the template I can share with you. Just let me know in the comment section. I'll find a way of connecting with you. You can connect through LinkedIn, and then I'll share with you this template. Also, let me know if you feel like I'm missing out anything, or there's something that is not clear and you understand more about it. Also, let me know in the comment section. Please leave a comment, and we'll be able to discuss more about this template. So in my account, I'm just going to show you, I was able to run this specific template, and everything was created to completion. So you can see creation complete for that one. Yeah, and just to look at the resources that were created, I'm going to go into VPC. As you can see in my account, I just have 2 VPCs, and this is the specific VPC that was created using the stack. And then if you look at the resource map, I only have one subnet, which is the one that I'd say that it should be created, and then it's associated with the route table, which created by default, and then I have the internet gateway that was created. If I go to EC2 instances, just to see that our instance was created, let me go to EC2. Yeah, so this is my instance that was created. See the name? My EC2 instance, it's the one, my EC2 instance. It's currently running. And then I can also check on the security groups just to make sure that our security group was created. So this is the name of the security group. Let me open it so that, okay. Okay, yeah, you can see the rules over here. So this is the inbound rule. We allowed port 80 and port 22 from everywhere. And as I mentioned, this is not recommended for production. I was just doing a demo, which is okay for now. And yeah, that's it. So our template is working. So as I mentioned, let me know if you need to, to test this template, and or if you need to maybe to reference it when you're doing your learning for CloudFormation, I'll be able to share with you. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please let's interact in the comment section, and let's learn together. Until next time, goodbye.